Hey. Okay. Okay. This is a reminder to those who have been baptized and a warning to those who haven't been baptized yet. It's the cost of following Yeshua. In Luke chapter 9, verse 57, and it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Lord, I will follow thee wheresoever thou goest. And Yeshua said unto him, Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has not where to lay his head. And he said unto another, Follow me. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. Yeshua said unto him, Let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of Yahweh. And another also said, Lord, I will follow you, but let me first go bid them farewell which are at home at my house. Yeshua said unto him, No man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of Yahweh. Now Luke records this for us in this passage. It's an account of three men who Yeshua met as he was traveling along with his disciples. Two of these men declared that they wished to follow Yeshua, to become his disciples. The other was one whom Yeshua himself summoned to follow him. And what immediately strikes me is the way in which Yeshua handles these inquiries. And I think that this is Luke's reason for recording the details of these meetings. Men with a cause are busy trying to recruit as many as they can. Most preachers are busy trying to get as many members for their church as they possibly can. And I like seeing new members in the congregation. It's natural. It's what we expect to see. But Yeshua is radically different in his approach. He seems to spend a great deal of his time trying to dissuade men from following after him. Or at least that's what it looks like. A minister was sharing some advice he was given by an aged preacher which he greatly respected, and the old man said to him, Always endeavor to keep your congregation as small as you can. Now that's a strange talk, isn't it? And that was coming from a man who himself had pastored quite a large congregation. But what he meant was, preach the truth of Yahweh's salvation and the demands of following Yeshua so clearly that only those who have counted the cost and are ready to give up all for Messiah will join themselves to you. It's my desire to see as many as possible come to Yeshua. I pray to see them come in their hundreds and even thousands, but I don't just want to get a crowd. Many of you may not have experienced this, but years ago, when we were in the congregation with Governor Ted, we go to the Feast of Tabernacles, there was like 300-400 people there. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people singing. We may never see that again, but until the end time. So I pray to see them come in the hundreds and thousands, but I just don't want them to become a crowd. That doesn't interest me. I want to see men and women, young people, boys and girls turning to Yeshua with their whole hearts, becoming true, sold-out disciples for the Master. So it's interesting to read Yeshua's way of dealing with those who express the desire to follow him. He seems to be trying to dissuade them. But not really. In actual fact, Yeshua's desire is that people will follow him. But he wants them to think it through first, to count the cost involved. That was pointed out to me way before I was baptized. They sat me down at a table, went through the Bible, explained things, and they said, count the cost. This is serious business here. We're here, and we committed our lives to Yeshua. The same way when you go get married. It's not a light thing to get married. It's serious business. So count the cost that's involved, so that once they do follow him, they will never turn back. Even as he spells it out, what is required in such clear, shocking terms, inside and out, but it's really clear. He is longing for them to accept it. He's rooting for them. But the cost is the cost. It's non-negotiable. And they must be prepared for it. Now these three men who Yeshua confronted with his demands, consider the cost of following Yeshua. From Yeshua's conversation with him, we learned that the followers of Yeshua has no earthly security. Luke 9 verse 57. And it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Lord, I will follow thee wheresoever thou goest. And Yeshua said unto him, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has not where to lay his head. It's quite a bold statement, isn't it? I will follow you wherever you go. Can you say that without any idea of where this Yeshua may be headed? What may be involved in the journey? Perhaps you need some more information first. And then if you're still willing to follow, all's well and good. Yeshua replies that to follow him wherever he's going will not be an easy road. He's not the one of these high-flying rabbis who jets from village to village, staying in the best hotels and collecting nice offerings that come to hear him. When Yeshua stepped out of his throne in glory to come to this earth and live and die for us, he left behind that. He had exchanged the wealth for poverty. Out of the ivory palaces into a rude cattle shed. He exchanged rulership for servanthood. He says, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. What an irony. The King of Glory, heir apparent to the throne of the universe, doesn't even have a place to call home. He has no earthly security. He was loaned accommodations by those who loved him. He borrowed a coin to tell a story. He borrowed a donkey to ride into Jerusalem and fulfill prophecy. Why? He was even buried in a borrowed tomb. He was just as well that he didn't need it for too long. He had nothing. He gave up all when he came and stood by us. And those who follow him must be prepared for the same road. No earthly security. Now, I haven't said no security. There is security in following Yeshua, all right, but it's not any earthly security. It's not the security of possessions or money or homes or things. Only the security of Yeshua's faithfulness and a life beyond this one that nothing can take away. Even though believers have nothing to his name in this life, yet he is more secure than the richest, most powerful of men who meet in Davos, telling the poor people how they should be living while they have billions of dollars in the bank, flying around in their jets, but you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. But the follower of Yeshua has no earthly security. If you're going to follow Yeshua and walk his road, it may well cost you everything. So count the cost. But remember the words of Yeshua elsewhere. He said, "Whosoever loses his life for my sake shall find it." Then we read of the second man in verses 59 and 60. From Yeshua's conversation with this one, we learn that the followers of Yeshua has no earthly ties. And verse 59, and he said unto another, "Follow me." But he said, "Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father." Yeshua said unto him, "Let the dead bury the dead, but go you and preach the kingdom of Yahweh." Here we have a conversation that has shocked many people. Yeshua calls this man to be his disciple, but he begs to leave to go and bury his father first. Doesn't it seem like a little reasonable request? You feel sympathy for the man, don't you, as you read it? But Yeshua replies, "Let the dead bury their own. I have called you to preach for me." The point Yeshua makes here, and let no one mistake it, is that if you're going to follow Yeshua Messiah, then the claim of his kingdom comes before anything and anyone else. Yeshua said elsewhere that he who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Now you get the point, the picture here, the kind of devotion that he is calling for. He's not calling for us to be dishonoring parents or shriek from our responsibility to family, but if we are pressed into a choice between the two, he comes first. And indeed, some have had to lose family to follow Yeshua. I know one person from Texas where his wife divorced him because he followed Yeshua. He wouldn't give Yeshua up, so she left him. The followers of Yeshua have no ultimate earthly ties. So Yeshua says, leave it behind. And here's a little more light on this conversation, perhaps. When this man says, "Let me first go and bury my father," it might help us to have the insight into the Jewish funeral procedure. Back then, the initial burial took place shortly after a person's death. This man is not locked away in mourning, so we may assume that the burial had already taken place. But then, 1 year later, they go back to the tomb, and they collect all the bones and put it in an ossuary. The son would return to rebury his bones in a special box, in a slot in the tomb wall. And if that situation here, it seems reasonable to assume that it was, then this man who had been called by Yeshua could be asking for up to a year's delay before following. And Yeshua said, others can take care of that. Others can take care of that. The demands of the kingdom are more urgent. My call cannot wait. The follower of Yeshua has no earthly ties. Yeshua says, leave it all behind. Follow me. I hear young people say, I'll follow Yeshua later on. I've known people like that too. I've other more important things to attend to right now. My career, my education, my girlfriend, my boyfriend. I got to provide a nest egg for my family first. Wouldn't Yahweh want me to be responsible like that? If Yahweh is calling you to follow him, to commit your life to Yeshua, or to take up ministry for him, or whatever it may be, his call comes first. No excuses must be allowed to hinder you. The follower of Yeshua has no earthly ties. Leave it behind. Finally, we come to the third man in verse 61 and 2. And from Yeshua's conversation with this one, we learn that the follower of Yeshua has no earthly distractions. In Luke 9, verse 61, and another also said, Lord, I will follow you, but let me first go bid them farewell which are at home at my house. Yeshua said unto him, No man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of Yahweh. Again, doesn't this seem like a reasonable request? Would you deny a soldier going to war one last time to bid his loved ones farewell? But again, Yeshua clearly spells out the cost of following him. You already declared you are ready to follow me. You picked up the plow. If you put it down now because of your hankering after your family back home, you are not fit for the kingdom of Yahweh. What is Yeshua saying? Don't look back. When Peter, James, and John followed Yeshua, they literally dropped everything. Their fishing nets, and then they went after him. Right when it looked like the business was picking up. Yeshua had just got them a bumper catch. They went back for nothing. The master had called. Some have looked back when Yahweh called them. Let me list some of them for you. Lot's wife looked back. Judah Iscariot, Demas. Is any of them remembered or for any good thing? They were not worthy of the kingdom. If you're going to follow Yeshua, there must be no going back. Another reason why we count the cost first. Another way Yeshua puts it is like this. Which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who observe it begin to ridicule him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Commenting on those words, John Stott wrote this. The Christian landscape is strewn with wreckage of derelict, half-built towers. The ruins of those who began to build and were unable to finish. For thousands of people still ignore Christ's warning and undertake to follow him without first pausing to reflect on the cost of doing so. The result is the great scandal of the Christendom today. So-called nominal Christianity in countries to which Christian civilization had spread, large number of people have covered themselves with a decent but thin veneer of Christianity. They have allowed themselves to become somewhat involved, enough to be respectable, but not enough to be uncomfortable. Their religion is a great soft cushion. It protects them from the hard unpleasantness of life, while changing its place and shape to suit their convenience. No wonder the cynics speak of hypocrisies in the congregation and dismiss religion as escapism. The true follower of Yeshua allows no earthly distractions. We don't look back for anything or anyone. Yeshua's words are strong to take. Here's what it will cost you to follow after Yeshua. In short, it will cost you everything. He calls for us to commit ourselves completely to Him and to hold nothing back. And that is the picture of the authentic believer. The follower of Yeshua has no earthly securities, no earthly ties, no earthly distractions. Yeshua said to the first man, count the cost. He said to the second man, leave it behind. And he said to the third man, don't look back. So what's he saying to you and me? Well, you heard the cost of following Yeshua. You might say, well, who then would ever consider following him? Well, perhaps the answer to that should be briefly consider the cost of not following him. Are you going to give up eternal life? Are you going to give up guidance in this life? Are you going to give up the opportunity to glorify Yahweh? Count the cost. It's serious business. Yahweh bless.